in arts and design at the in the studios, and then we have the Master of Art History and Curatorial Studies through the Centre for Art History and Theory, and that's all part of the art school, and they're combined as well. So I'm going to go through some of the amazing things that you can do as part of a master's program at the ANU School of Art and Design, and then you can ask me some questions after the presentation if you like. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Oops. So here we have, this is the physical building of the ANU School of Art and Design. It's a beautiful Art Deco building, and all of the studios are behind this fabulous facade with a clock tower. And it's quite an exciting place to be, actually. Walking through the halls, there's always something happening. There's always exhibitions on. There's always a speaker that you can go and see. And there's in the studios, there's always an activity that's happening. So what it does, it equips students with specialised skills for professional careers in the visual arts, media arts and design industries. So the school has this fantastic philosophy that embraces interdisciplinary and flexible approach to art education. And while we teach traditional media like printmaking and throwing pots and even furniture and gold and silversmithing, we actually look at how new emerging technologies augment that process as well. So there is a really big push in the school to look at how traditional methods and new contemporary methods of design that even go into the virtual spaces are brought into play through an art practice. And that's also considering the idea of digital humanities as well. So thinking about how art history and art theory are also brought into that digital space. So it's all about tactility, materiality, and also thinking about how we archive and how we understand digital collections as well. It's really exciting. We've got some leading researchers that I'll tell you about, but this is where you can really start to advance your practice through a master's program and thinking about how these new ideas are brought to fruition through the research process. So we do encourage students to try a range of approaches to contemporary practice. And it might be, as a master's student, you know, there's all sorts of reasons why people come to a master's program. It might be that you did your undergraduate degree a long time ago, or perhaps you've been working in the field as a practicing artist, and you really want to start to really kind of consider how you consolidate the skills that you already know, and then think about how to understand them within the contemporary field. So we're really looking for artists and designers and art history and art theoreticians who really want to place themselves within what is happening now and how to be part of that network and how to push themselves into the future. And this is where it becomes really exciting, because you get to meet so many different people and you really build this incredible network of people that understand the kind of field that you want to be in. And of course, no matter where you are in the school, all students are supported with writing and research in context of practice-led research by the Centre of Art History and Theory. So it's this idea of bringing your knowledge, understanding it and demonstrating it through writing as well. A lot of master's students who come through into visual art and design want to learn how to write, to be able to write within that field. And of course, when you're a curatorial student or you want to do an internship, you really want to understand how to write for that art history field too. So there's a real push at our school to have all areas covered in a really complex and wonderfully augmented way. But while we have this fantastic school with all of its facilities, We really do draw on the strengths of the academic team, and we have some really strong research links that the academic team drive. So along with that, with the comprehensive workshops, we have highly flexible study programs, which I'll go into a bit more detail in a while. As I said, the academic staff are research focused, and they have quite high profiles within their field as well. You'll see that they publish a lot, they exhibit a lot, they win awards, they're recognised for their practice, and you get to hang out with these people. It's really great. And then what we have is also the interdisciplinary learning outcomes across the studio disciplines. So we really think about, well, you might want to come to the art school to do painting, but you might want to actually think about how you combine the skill of painting with, say, computational design or printmaking, or even thinking about sculpture. So it, the whole idea of making an art practice doesn't have to just sit within one discipline. You can go very deep into that one discipline, but you can also really think about any discipline within the expanded field as well. And that includes actually working with researchers across the ANU too. A lot of our students actually think about what it is to work across the arts and sciences, or anthropology, or biology, or physics. So there's all sorts of really exciting ways that you can move throughout the ANU too. One thing that I really, really am proud about being at the ANU School of Art is the recognition and commitment to the land, knowledge and cultures of the first Australian peoples as well. We've got this really big push at the moment to really consider what it is to be part of the Aboriginal culture, the First Nation culture. So we're really thinking about the land that surrounds us, the nations that are around us, and also throughout Australia, and how that can actually teach us things about our own practices, and can lead us into really strong and powerful ways of understanding ourselves in the world. And of course, we've got strong networks across the whole of the local and national region. So within Canberra itself, we have this incredibly vibrant community of practicing artists, designers, and curators and writers. And of course, we're in close proximity to all the cultural institutions, art and design organisations, and policymakers. And those policymakers are on the Hill in Parliament. So it's not unknown for art students to move from the art school to actually working in Parliament as well. So there's quite a few people around. This is a really good example of what our community consists of. This was just one event where we had all of the small arts organisations come and talk to the students at the school, and this is a great photo opportunity. But I really noticed, like, when we put it on Instagram and everyone was tagged, you can see here just a small section of this. It doesn't tag everyone. But you can see how many arts organisations there are within our small community alone. It's incredibly dynamic. And what's great is that these organisations really support us art students who come through the school at every level, from undergraduate to postgraduate to higher research degrees. Myself, I've been supported throughout my practice by these arts organisations. So I've exhibited at Canberra Contemporary Art Space. I was given some really significant solo shows there. I've won awards at Megalo Print Studio, and now I've worked there, and I'm also now on the board. And I also have quite a lot to do with Photo Access and M16 and the Drill Hall Gallery. So all of these places, they employ us, they support our practice, they create audiences. And so coming to the School of Art is a really great opportunity. Come and exhibit your work too, or curate a show, or write about a show that's there. So it doesn't have to be just about those big national organisations like the National Gallery of Australia or the National Portrait Gallery. There's lots of people working in and around these organisations at the School of Art. Now, we offer quite a few programs in the undergraduate space, and that often feeds into the master's program. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all of our master's students are recent graduates. The master's in the Masters, you have a really wide range of people coming to it from different areas. So it could be engineering, it might be from the sciences, it could be from art practice or curatorial practice. The Masters of Art History and Curatorial Practice is incredibly popular among the field of art history and curatorial practice, because it actually connects you within that world, and it's often seen as a precursor to doing a PhD or getting a job within one of those organisations. With the Masters in Visual Arts and Design, that too is not always about just undergraduates going into that master's degree. It's often seen as a space where you really consider how it is to extend your practice within the field, and you get lots of the support of being in the studios as well. So these graduate programs include the master's program, and then we have the advanced program too. What the advanced program does is it's essentially the same list of courses that you have, and I'll show you those lists when I go to the website to show you those studies. But all the advanced versions of the Masters have a 24-unit practice-led research or research component that covers, if you're doing it full-time, 1 semester. And if you're a domestic student, you can take the option of doing that over 2 semesters as well. So there's this really great way of thinking about how you use your Masters. Not everyone wants to do a Masters Advanced, because if you've done an honours, sometimes honours students don't really want to do a Masters Advanced, but what they want to do is they want to do the courses that they felt that they didn't get to do during their undergraduate degree. Now, why I've got this fantastic photograph of Yang Yang Yin here is that she is one of our star pupils, and she came to do, well, she did a degree with us, but she also did the Master of Art History and Curatorial Studies, and then was incredibly inspired by the consideration of the materiality of ceramics. So she went on to do a Master of Visual Arts Advanced and graduated with these 2 masters, and is now working at Strathnairn Arts, where she received a scholarship to go and work and really consider her practice within that field. And it's so lovely seeing these students come back and really consider how to really push their practice through these fields. Now, at the moment, we're just in between masters. We've got the Master of Visual Arts and Design, and they've been discontinued for this moment. Of course, there's students within those fields and they're still working there in a really strong way. And we're just waiting for a new master's program to be opened up for 2021. And all of the details of that new master's will be on the website by the end of the year. So any queries about that, please send your email to the CAS administration team or to Amy's administration team at the School of Art and Design, and they'll be able to fill you in and let you know when that new master's program has been opened up. But essentially all of the courses within that new master's program will be the same. So whatever I talk about today is completely relevant. Whoops. So what you get through the master's program and doing it even in the art history and curatorship and through the visual arts and design is once you graduate, in your last body of work can be exhibited through the graduation exhibition. So this, for example, is this beautiful work of art from glass, where you can see how the artist has really considered an interdisciplinary approach to the consideration of glass as a sculptural material. And they've thought about the astronomical constellations and have brought to light this idea of what it is to look down onto maps and thinking about the astronomical maps in the universe. And Emily's work is that, you know, it brings excellence to considering that material, but also thinking beyond just the idea of making and thinking about those conceptual ideas too, and how you bring those ideas to the making practice. And then we have these fantastic uh, academics who work with our students. And here we have Dr. Jeff Hinchcliffe, who is also one of our Associate Deans of Education, and he works in the design field, and he really thinks about what it is to visualize data. So all of our design and hybrid academics, they really consider what it is to think about the kinds of data that we create in the world, and then bring it into this visual practice. Like, what is it to make something out of something that only exists within a virtual kind of space? Now, I'm going to just stop here for the moment, and I'm going to go to my other screen, where I'm just going to show you what I'm going to show you first, just to consider where you might bring these kind of interdisciplinary ideas into the courses. So if you look on, say, the Master of Visual Arts and you click Study, what you can see here is there's lists of courses that you can do throughout your 2-year degree. And if you're full-time, of course, you do that within 2 years. And if you're part-time, you can do that in and out of around your other commitments. So it means that you can be enrolled in one course a semester, but also consider about, you know, if something comes up, you can be really flexible about it too. So you can come back to the program within, as long as you do it within a certain time. So what the whole masters are, all 3 masters in fact, they come into 96 units. So each unit, each course is generally 6 units, unless it says it's 12 or 18 or 24. And you've always got to check what those courses say, but they're basically in increments of 6. They go up in 6. So what you generally do with your masters is you'd start with foundation theory course, and that eases you into thinking about the kinds of ideas that you might be bringing to your work and helping you consolidate those ideas and how you write and how you consider research. And then you'd also do up to 18 units of a foundation studio course as well. Now, these are really important, these foundation studio courses. Of course, if you're coming straight out of an honours degree program, you might want to consider getting a credit. But most of our students, even though they've done a lot in that field, they find that the credits really restrict them, because what they want to do is really think about getting back into that studio and getting that support through that studio work. The thing about art, it's so dynamic. It's not like a law degree where it's the same material that's taught over a long period of time. Art changes all the time, and there's every lecturer brings to it a new way of thinking and practicing. So we find our students often want to go back to those studio-based courses, because it actually does really build on their practice. I do masters programs all the time through different organizations to up my skills. Like, I'll do a master printing course, or I'll do a master in design course or something, because I learn things all the time through practice and through doing things. In fact, I have degree envy. I wish I could do this master's degree. But this also means that when you do that foundation course, if you haven't done, say, photography or animation before, because you come from a different field, this is where you can do those courses. That's where you can really start to think about, how am I going to use drawing into print for my furniture practice, or how am I going to think about sculpture and performance and temporal practice for my painting practice or for textiles. So there's all these really amazing ways to really think about how to support that, what you're doing in those courses. And of course, it also sits in the studio courses as well, so you get slightly more advanced courses, but you can see that they are repeated in those lists too. So you've got lots of choices. You can really start to think about how to do all of those courses and what to do. Now, this is the important bit. Here you have, well, I can't highlight it. Let's see if I can highlight that for you. This is what's really important and really exciting about our Masters of Visual Arts and Design programs, is that you get to do these practice-led research projects. Now, this means that if you don't want to do the foundation courses or the studio courses for any reason, because you've already got that experience and you really want to go deep, these are the courses that you can fill out your program with. And what you do is you propose a independent practice-led proposal. You have supervision. So, for example, the Art V 8038 practice-led research project, that's 6 units. So that's something that you might start off with to test how you're going to go thinking about your independent practice-led project. And that's equivalent to about 1 day a week in the studio. 8039 is 12 units. So it's equivalent to about 2 days a week in the studio. Of course, you can do much more. This is just to give you an equivalent of what it is. And then you have 8040, which is an 18 unit, and that's around 3. So if you're thinking about doing an advanced is called Thesis 8105, and that's full time. That's 24 units of practice-led research. And that's where that advanced becomes quite important if you really want to think about consolidating your practice with your ideas and doing an honours equivalent type research project for 24 units. So these are what makes our master's program unique and incredibly strong, because this is what the master's program offers you, is learning how to really consider practice-led research within the academic field. And it helps you combine your ideas, your methodologies, your studio experiments, and thinking about how to resolve those projects and how to build one idea onto the next. Now, you might decide that you're not an academic, you don't want to move into that academic field, but as a professional artist, this is what it is to write a grant for a big grant application. This is what it takes to move into a collaborative project, to propose how you actually create this research, what you're going to do, how you're going to go about it, and what you think the outcomes might be. And then also how to explain what those outcomes are and how they're important and how they sit within that field. And that's what's so important about being a practicing artist today, because you need to be able to articulate those key ideas. Not only is it important to know how to look at your own work objectively and understand it within that field, you need to be able to consider it, to articulate it to others as well. So that's what makes our visual art and design projects really exciting. And you can see here by these design projects too, that when you're within the visual arts and design, it's so flexible. You can work across both areas. You don't have to feel like you can only go back to traditional ceramics. For example, in ceramics at the moment, led by Rod Bamford, who's the head of ceramics, he's looking at data and robotic clay printing. So he's actually showing ceramic students how to code and to think about how to create things with 3D printing through clay, and what that means to the clay, and how that aesthetic comes across. So there's so many really exciting things to do in that field. What we have here, and this goes for the design students as well, we actually ask you to do 24 units from these courses here. You can see that 8038 practice led and 8039, they'll repeat themselves across the program, because that's what we want you to do, is consider where you're at the time and how to place these courses. So when you finish, you have that body of work that you're really building towards to go into that graduate exhibition. But what we have here are arguing objects, writing about art and creative practice, and points of view. Points of View is an intensive writing course, and I actually teach this course, and it is incredibly exciting to work with master students who are really starting to find that language to write about art and how you understand how research is placed within that field. So I always get my master's students to try and do 8022 early on in their degree to really meet other master's students. We did it remotely this year, which was really fantastic. In fact, it taught me a lot about teaching in person too, doing it remotely, and thinking about how to write. How do we write? How do we articulate ourselves? And of course, through the ANU, we have the academic skills program too. So I connect the students with academic skills so they can think about what it is to write an argument, what it is to answer an essay question. And this is what we use as artists writing about our own work. So when I go and write for an arts grant, for example, at any level, for whatever, these are the skills I use to write for those grants. So it comes down to those basic levels of even writing an artist statement. How do we explain ourselves? How do we test our knowledge and explain to people what we actually mean about our practice? And this is where arguing objects and writing about art and creative practice are important too. They're also intensives, and they also get you to think about how to make those connections between demonstrating research, articulating your research, and writing about your own practice. And when you do arguing objects and writing about art and creative practice, you get to hang out with PhD students too, and they're in the same state, thinking about what are these ideas? How do I express these ideas? I've got all these ideas that mean lots of things. They connect to books and things I've seen on TV and research I've read about, and how do I explain this whole visual culture that I'm involved in? And you can see here that these courses are repeatable for credit, so up to a maximum of 36 credits each. So each time you do a different topic, so we help you with that. We help you build on those topics and come up with those topics. Seem to have lost my Master of Art History and Curatorial button, so I'll just, here we go. Let's come back here. So Master of Art History and Curatorial Studies is the same. It's 96 units, and I'll just click on the study program here. And you can see it's set out in the same way that the visual arts and design ones are set out. You have your introductory courses. It's quite interesting, you know, once I start to talk to new master's students who have already done, say, an honours thesis or just graduated from somewhere else, you'll notice that they think about getting a credit because they'd like to finish the course quickly. But when they start to look at the list of things that they can do and the people that they can work with, they tend not to take the credits because you really, you start to realise that there's so many things that you want to do. And then what you do is you consider there's these 12-unit courses that are really place you in that idea about how to connect art history with curatorial studies and vice versa. And these 12-unit really take you through the steps of considering how you articulate the knowledge that you're looking at and how you build on that knowledge as well. And there's a whole range of things to take from. It's really good to look at the lecturers that are taking the course, having a look at their own scholarship and research profile, and you can really see how so many of them work at a very high level in the field and are really into imparting that knowledge and passion for that field as well. And I often get to sit in on lectures and listen to them lecturing, and it's just, I'm amazed every time I see them and what they have to give and the kinds of things that they consider through their work. And I know, being part of their team, how often they meet together and talk about all of the integral things that they think are important to carry across all of those courses. So you can see here there's an amazing list. And then you also have some similar courses that we offer the visual arts and design as well. You can see here that we've got arguing objects, writing about art and creative practice and points of view. So that means it brings everyone together, and that way you also create your own networks within the program. Now, these courses here too, like Mythologies of Art History, that's a really important course. And that's a 12-unit course, and we would hope that everyone who does the Master of Art History and Curatorial Studies would think about how to engage with that course. It's a high-level course, it's a research training course because it's an 8,000 level, and that's what a lot of our master's students who come in, they come to do that course because that's one of the important sort of keystone courses that lead you to really have an understanding of what it is to work in that field or go into higher research through a PhD program. Now, with all of these courses, they're usually set out in 24-unit blocks. What you have throughout all of the courses, including visual arts and design and art history and curatorial studies, is 24 units of elective courses. So that means that you can do elective courses from any of these lists or anywhere within the ANU, a course that allows you to come in without prerequisites. This is why a lot of our students come to this course, because they want to do French or they want to do Latin, or they want to learn, they want to go and do a biology course or a maths course. It's really amazing seeing what these students are doing. Now, this is where you can decide whether or not you want to do the elective courses, because you've already done enough in your life study that you don't want to have to do a 24-unit research course. And this is where the advanced is different from the other masters, is that the advanced doesn't have elective courses. What it does, it replaces those elective courses with that 24-unit research course. So that's the difference. And we can explain that to you again when you're in the course, and you can apply for advanced at any time. So we help you think about how to move through those courses and how to use them at your best possible way. Okay. So quite often students will ask me about their career and professional outcomes. A lot of students who come to us in the master's space already have a professional career or a practice, but what we do is offer you a very wide network in which to start to really build your understanding of how different organizations and different systems work, so that you can have the knowledge to apply yourself to it and become part of that network. Now, our sector, the visual arts and design sector, what it requires is an independent way of moving through it. So there is no package job at the end of it, in the way that a lot of people think that university gives you these immediate openings to employment. And in fact, what I find with the master's space is that a lot of people are coming to it to change their way of being considered in the employment sector. So it might be that people have come in who are teachers but want to move into a different field of research, or perhaps have come from the public service and want to go into teaching, or they really want to become a curator at the NGA or at another institution, or work within the visual arts. It gives you a really good experience of our degrees, give you a good experience of what it's like to work in that sector. And there are internship opportunities where we can actually pair you up with an organisation. It depends on a whole range of factors. But what I find is just being part of the degree and meeting people, that broadens your network. It's about making networks that gives you employment and professional outcomes. And what we teach you is how to present yourself professionally as well. And so I know just from experience how my students come into the degree and start to work, start to build their network, start to realize that there's a whole range of opportunities that they hadn't been exposed to before. And they start to work their way through those opportunities and build their work experience and through that practice of being in the master's degree. So clearly we are entering a scary stage of employment because of COVID and other um, difficulties with recession and finance. So I think now there's never been a better time to be in a master's program, because what that does, it's like a safety net. It actually creates networks for you where we can all support each other through a difficult time too. One of the beautiful things that I love about the art school is this art school, and I've got degrees in 2 different art schools, and my passion is with the School of Art, because what I've found with the School of Art and Design is that it never forgets its alumni. It's like a family. We actually have this fantastic way of supporting graduates and master's graduates from our programs with scholarships and different kinds of connections. We have this huge emerging artist support scheme, which really thinks about how to offer people opportunities outside of their degree. And I'm always being visited by my graduate students, and I even work with them or work for them in different capacities as well. So it's a dynamic space, the art world, and people always move through it in different ways. And that's what we give you, is that ability to be flexible and think about the exciting things that you can do with opportunities. So what it does, when you think about the Master of Art History and Curatorial Studies program in terms of employment, is we do have this big internship program, and the partnering institutions include the National Gallery of Australia, the National Portrait Gallery, the National Museum, the Australian War Memorial. There's a whole range of things, Canberra Contemporary Art Space, and it is a really competitive internship. But what it gives you is an opportunity to meet that network and have that experience to work in there. A lot of people ask me why the Master of Art History and Curatorial Studies program is not taught remotely. Well, it is at the moment because of COVID, which is a bit of a bummer. But one of the things we think is really important is to be here in person, because that way we can actually give you those connections. We have visiting speakers, we have people coming in and demonstrating their skill and their research through these collections, and we often take you to those collections as well. So we physically make that space between the person and the wider world. So you get to meet curators who then remember you and think about, who was that person that I met and how can I employ them? And that way we can really push people forward into that workforce. And there are so many different jobs that come up through these organizations across the way. And I think that's why being in person is such an important thing, just as it is to do an arts degree as well, being there, sharing that information and showing people something in the physical space. So I'm just going to finish up with all of the kind of exciting things that you can do in Canberra. There are always festivals here. We're close to different organisations in Sydney as well, so it's quite easy to travel to Sydney to see the Biennale. It's quite easy to get to Melbourne to see the festivals and the galleries there too. But our institutions have such extensive um, collections that no one has ever got to the bottom of them. So if you can't find something of interest in the collections or in the programs that are offered in Canberra, then I'm not sure where you would find a better place. And I travel a lot, and I see a lot, and I know it gives me a better appreciation of just how much Canberra has to offer, and how important it is that the ANU School of Art is in the centre of all of this too. It's very exciting. So I'm going to stop sharing there, and perhaps there's some questions that I can answer about these programs. Are there any questions? Candice, Amy, are you there?
Yes, we're here.
It's all quiet.
If you don't wish to ask questions verbally, please feel free to put them into the chat and we can answer them through that mechanism as well.
Was there anything you'd like to add, Amy?
No, I think you did a fabulous wrap up. Thank you, Erica.
That's all right. I don't think there's any questions today.
Okay, if there's no questions at this point, we could close the seminar then. I will turn off the recording and we will say goodbye for today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and I hope to see you soon.